Pack your bags and get out. I have no use for you anymore. From now on, the job and the house belong to my new wife and son. You won't get a dime from me." This was the line I heard from my longtime husband, Fabio, in front of the family I had called together. How pathetic it felt. I couldn't say anything back and just looked down. Fabio seemed happy as he uttered these words to cast me out, believing in a bright future ahead. Maybe he was imagining his happy life with the new woman beside him. But who could have imagined the dramatic turnaround that followed? Fabio's future, far from being bright, turned into complete darkness, with no path in sight. I am Sophia Wilson, 51 years old this year. I work as an administrative assistant at the general hospital where Fabio, a doctor, is employed. This hospital is run by Fabio's father, the chief, and his brother, Tom, also works there as a doctor. It's essentially a family-run hospital. I joined here after graduating from college. Fabio noticed me while I was a new office worker and we got married. I was happy in the beginning. I could continue working at the hospital even after marriage, and I felt proud watching Fabio, a thriving doctor. 2 years into our marriage, we were blessed with our daughter, Mary. Raising her was tough, but watching her grow was my joy. Not far from our house is where my in-laws and Tom's family live. We rarely gather due to our busy schedules, but one day, my in-laws invited us over for a feast. Honestly, I'm not very comfortable around my mother-in-law. She is incredibly indulgent with Fabio. Even now, she comes to me with her worries about Fabio, and if he ever complains, I'm the one who gets a lecture from her. Today was no exception. "Sophia, you left Mary with Fabio while doing laundry this morning. Fabio is tired from his demanding job. Don't you think as a wife, you should let him rest on his days off?" "I'm sorry, Mary was fussy." "It's normal for kids to be fussy. You should have prepared in advance. Let's not sweat the small stuff. Come sit over here, Sophia and Mary." "Thank you." Usually, my father-in-law steps in and that's when the lecture ends. Fabio pretends not to hear or doesn't care, and I always wonder if this is typical for sons and their mothers. Each time, I feel frustrated. Tom and his wife, Michelle, have a 3-year-old boy. They always say how quiet and nice girls are, doting on Mary. Michelle is always bright and charming, managing well with my in-laws. She seemed so effortlessly perfect to me. For the celebration, my in-laws had prepared a gift for Mary. A cute stuffed animal, which she hugged with joy. Since they had 2 grandchildren, my father-in-law had also prepared a gift for Tom's son. A toy doctor's kit with a stethoscope, thermometer, and syringe. We all laughed at the gift. "Dad, isn't it a bit early for that? Planning to make him a doctor?" "He's my grandson, of course, he's gonna be a doctor." "Well, I have no such intention. It's just that he played doctor the other day, so I thought of this kit. My son remembered his shots from the other day. Thanks, he'll probably inject me every day now." After a lovely meal, we decided to head home as Mary fell asleep. Exchanging goodbyes at the door, Fabio muttered under his breath as we stepped outside. "So what if he's a boy?" I was startled by his angry tone, but he looked normal, so I thought I misheard and eventually forgot about it. Fabio always said, the second one must be a boy. I wanted Mary to have a sibling, so I decided on fertility treatments. Despite the time, effort, and money spent, I eventually gave up. Fabio, who complained about the cost and effectiveness of the treatments, didn't say anything when I stopped. Eventually, we stopped discussing a second child, and I thought Fabio had given up too, feeling relieved. But around that time, Fabio started to change. Even when he was home, he'd just sit silently with a troubled look, often not responding when I spoke to him. If he didn't like the menu I prepared, he'd leave without a word and eat out. He even started getting angry and calling Mary a nuisance when she cried, rather than trying to soothe her. However, he was charming as ever with everyone but me and Mary, even washing dishes with a smile when his parents visited, but ignoring his own used dishes when we were alone. My mother-in-law, clueless about the situation, would often praise Fabio. "You're so lucky, Sophia. It's rare to find a man who helps with household chores while having a demanding job as a doctor." I could only force a wry smile in response. At work, Fabio began snapping at new staff and, taking advantage of being the chief's son, started looking down on other doctors and staff. I slowly lost confidence in parenting with him. Was the man I married always like this, or has he changed? I wondered if the kind Fabio I once knew might return one day. Clinging to that faint hope, I waited. However, the hospital underwent a major transition. Fabio's father retired, and his brother, Tom, was appointed as the new chief. Fabio, being the eldest, probably expected to take over. But the decision, influenced by the board and staff's opinions, fell on Tom. Of course, in such a large hospital, the chief isn't decided solely based on my father-in-law's opinion. It was a decision made after considering the opinions of the board and the staff as well. There had been rumors about the next chief for a while. And even I, working in administration, had heard them. Realizing Fabio wasn't popular enough to be chosen, Fabio started staying out overnight more frequently. "I'll be staying at the hospital tonight," he'd say, but I knew he wasn't there. A simple inquiry with the on-call doctors would reveal the truth. I wondered if there was a woman he was desperate to see. Or if he was just mocking me. It was sad, but I couldn't even muster the energy to be angry. Since Fabio no longer ate at home, Mary and I dined alone, and I slept by myself in the large bedroom. Rumors of Fabio being seen frequently with the head nurse reached my ears. At first, I pretended not to hear, but after hearing it several times, I couldn't stay silent. When I asked him to stop staying out, he just gave non-committal answers and brushed me off. I wondered if he wanted a divorce, but it seemed he wasn't ready to make that decision either. He was a selfish father, but he probably still cared for Mary. Tom's family and my in-laws always treated Mary with love and care. Maybe that's why I couldn't bring myself to talk about divorce. My love for Fabio had faded. I often thought about leaving this house with Mary, but wondered if I could raise her alone. Leaving could mean losing my job too. Could I start a new life from scratch, without a home or a job? I couldn't find the courage to leave. I decided to endure this life until Mary graduated from college. I'll think about myself later. So I've decided to endure living in this house until Mary graduates from college. I felt like I was in a dark, endless tunnel, but that was all I could do. Mary grew into a high school student. Fabio's absences from home became more frequent. We hardly ever saw each other as a family. I only communicated with him at work about household matters. Even so, our conversations were mostly about practical matters, like asking him to prepare the entrance fee for Mary's high school or to provide money for her school trip. It was all about expenses. Thankfully, he provided for our living expenses and unexpected costs. But he never contributed to our leisure or personal wants. Watching our situation, Mary seemed to understand our family dynamics and didn't ask for much. She was a child who rarely made unreasonable demands. One day, we had a career counseling session. Walking to the school, I asked about her plans. And to my surprise, she said she wanted to study medicine. "Why did you decide to become a doctor?" "I want to be a doctor like Tom." Mary once had a serious accident in elementary school. She was hit by a car, and it was feared she might lose her right leg. Desperate, I begged Fabio to save her, even if it cost my own life. But he quickly gave up, saying it was impossible due to the extent of the damage. I ran to the chief's office. "Please, save Mary!" Hearing about the situation, Tom quickly assembled an excellent medical team to examine Mary. Thanks to an 8-hour surgery the next day, Mary didn't lose her right leg. "Thank you so much, Tom." "Oh, I just gathered our hospital's best staff. But I wonder why Fabio didn't do it. She's his only precious daughter." Tom was puzzled, but I understood. Fabio wasn't respected in the hospital. Even if he had asked for help, I doubt anyone would have come forward. It was possible because of Tom, a chief who was respected. Tom and his wife had always adored Mary since she was little. It wasn't Fabio but Tom who patiently supported her through the rehabilitation after surgery. "You're doing great with the physio, Mary. Just a little more and you'll be walking. Then, you'll get a reward." "Yeah, I promise. I'll be walking soon." "That's right. You're a hard worker, Mary," Tom said, watching over her physiotherapy. Maybe it was natural for Mary, who had gone through such an experience as a child, to want to become a doctor like her Uncle Tom. I couldn't help but think if it had been Fabio. If only he had been the kind of doctor his daughter wanted to be like. It was sad that, despite her father being a doctor, Mary didn't aspire to be like him. Mary and I decided to go on a trip. Tom suggested it, saying that Mary would soon be busy with her studies, so we should take a leisurely trip while we can. He even offered to pay for it. We had never considered a trip just the two of us, but accepting his kind offer, I decided to go. I also made a significant decision in secret and set off on a 2-night, 3-day journey with Mary. The trip was delightful. It felt like a cleansing for our weary hearts, and both Mary and I enjoyed it to the fullest. Last night, while we were in a spa, I asked Mary, "What do you think about your dad?" "I think he's terrible. I despise him as a person. It's sad to think such a person is my father, but I've come to terms with it. Uncle Tom has been kind enough for both of them. But what about you, Mom? Are you okay with this?" "Mary, I'm sorry for making you endure all this. When you told me you wanted to be a doctor, I realized you weren't a child anymore, that you've become a woman who can chase her own dreams. I was relieved and happy. From now on, I won't hold back either. Just like you're chasing your dreams, I'll firmly walk my own path in life." "What are you thinking about, Mom?" "Oh, I think I speak a little too much. I'll get out first." With that, I left the spa ahead of Mary. On the last day of our trip, we planned to sightsee until around 3 p.m. and then take the evening flight home. However, I complained of a headache and decided to return earlier after a quick breakfast. Mary wanted to come back with me, but I told her, "You should enjoy yourself a bit longer." "I'm fine, it's probably just menopause." So, I left Mary at the destination. She could enjoy some time alone at a cafe and take the planned flight back later. I didn't worry about her. I don't want to waste Tom's kindness. Let Mary enjoy herself till the end. And get a souvenir for Tom. Mary seemed puzzled but agreed, staying behind as I had said. Thanks to my hurry, I arrived home before 10 a.m. The front door was locked. Now the real game begins. I muttered to myself and unlocked the door. Inside, I saw Fabio's shoes and an unfamiliar pair of women's shoes. Confirming my suspicions, I went further into the house and stood in front of Fabio's room. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door with force. To my shock, there was Fabio and the head nurse, asleep in bed. I screamed and quickly grabbed my phone, dialing 911. "My husband has collapsed. Please come quickly." At the same moment, Fabio slammed the door shut on me. I could hear them hastily getting dressed inside. I made another call. This time to Tom. "It's terrible. I returned from our trip to find my husband collapsed in his room. Please come quickly." Without waiting for Tom's reply, I hung up and sat on the sofa, waiting for everyone to arrive. After a while, Fabio came out of the room in a rush, wearing his clothes haphazardly. "What on earth did you call for?" "Oh, are you okay? I thought you had collapsed, so I called an ambulance and the chief. They should be here any minute. You better stay in bed." Before I could finish, someone knocked at the door. It was Tom and his wife, my in-laws, and the paramedics. "What happened? I heard Fabio had collapsed. Is Fabio all right? What happened?" My in-laws asked, concerned. "No, it's not like that. This is a mistake." Seeing their faces, Fabio turned pale. As the paramedics entered, asking, "Where's the person who collapsed?" "Here. He's in this room." I led them to Fabio's room and opened the door wide. There was the head nurse, Michelle. She was properly dressed, but it was obvious why she was in Fabio's room on a weekend morning. "Why is Michelle here? Fabio, what on earth are you doing?" "I can't believe this." "What happened? Who collapsed? Who is this woman?" Fabio hung his head, unable to answer. "So, there's no patient?" "I'm sorry, it seems to have been a mistake. Please, you can leave." My father-in-law apologized, seeing them out the door. Once the paramedics left, our discussion, including Michelle, began. "First, Fabio, explain the situation." Fabio was silent, but upon hearing his father's words, he suddenly looked up, glaring at me. "What have you done? To gather everyone like this, and to call an ambulance, no less. We are a hospital family. What will people say if a doctor's family mistakenly calls an ambulance? This will spread as a rumor and disgrace our family. Yes, Sophia is to blame. Jumping to conclusions like this. Nobody collapsed, and if rumors start because of this, what will you do?" "Enough." Fabio, you are the cause of this situation. You should be the one apologizing and explaining. I'm very sorry for causing such a disturbance, I said. Fabio seemed to calm down a bit. I regret that it has come to this, but I was going to tell you all eventually. I'm going to be with Michelle. She's pregnant with my child, and it's a boy. A boy? That's wonderful. Are you sure it's Fabio's child? What about Sophia and Mary? Mary can stay here if she wants. Michelle can take the mother's role. As for Sophia, she needs to leave. He said coldly. You're the one to blame for not being able to have a boy. If a boy is coming, then Sophia should leave. Fabio always wanted a son. That's too harsh. Think about Sophia. It's okay. I knew Fabio had another woman. Pack your bags and leave. I have no use for you. The job and the house will belong to my new wife and son. You won't get a dime from me. If you had had a boy sooner, none of this would have happened. If I had a son, I would have been the chief. The only difference between Tom and me is that he has a son. Everyone gasped at Fabio's words. So he blamed me for not becoming the chief. Fabio, that's not true. My father-in-law spoke quietly. It's true Tom has a son, but that's not why. So what? I'm the eldest son. It's your attitude, blaming others and not reflecting on yourself. Disrespecting the staff and new doctors. People won't follow a leader like that. What if I had a son and Tom only had a daughter? Would you have made me the chief? No, even then, I would have recommended Tom. Unless you change, you can't lead. Even if you were my only child, I wouldn't have chosen you as chief. I would have chosen someone else. Fabio turned red with anger, trembling. The fist at the end of his arm, which hung by his side, was tightly clenched, trembling minutely, while his shoulders were tensed and his eyes bloodshot. How can it be my fault I didn't become the chief? Fabio, it's okay. You are a fine doctor. Michelle tried to console him. Looking at her and then her belly, Fabio calmed down a bit. Right, I'm a doctor. I've strived to be the chief, but now I'll work hard for my son. That's right, we should just focus on doing our best in this house. I felt a sharp pain in my heart, realizing how much Fabio cared for the child in her belly. No, we can't just go along with what Fabio says. It's too selfish. We have to consider Sophia and Mary too. Tom, just stay out of this. This is about my child. You already have a son, and because of him, you became the chief. I should have been the one to take over, but you took my place. But that's fine. Now I will have my own son. My son will be the chief after you. I will reclaim the position you took from me through my son. Sophia is just in the way now. For my son's future, she needs to leave. I'll give her some severance pay, and she can just take that and go. What are you talking about, Fabio? Don't you know? Sophia is now the administrative head and also a board member. We can't just make her resign because of our own convenience. Office manager? Board member? Sophia? What do you mean? Fabio, you haven't been home, so there was no chance to tell you, but about 3 years ago, I became the office manager and also a board member of the hospital. I participate in the hospital's critical personnel decisions. When did this happen? As long as you keep looking down on others like that, you'll never become the chief. It's not just my opinion or my father's, but that of the entire board. How dare you? Sophia was recommended to be a board member because she is diligent and sincere. Now, many people in the board listen to Sophia's opinions. Even if you make a fuss, she's not someone who can be easily dismissed from her job. In fact, if they find out about today's incident, it could be more than enough reason for you to be advised to resign. When did all this happen? Are you saying I could be fired because of you? Come on, Fabio, even if she's acting all high and mighty as the administrative head, she's still just office staff. Doctors are definitely more important. If we can't fire her, let's just keep her employed. Once our son is born, we can run the hospital however we want. What are you thinking? I thought you were a competent head nurse, but do you lack compassion? I have been living my life earnestly too. I've struggled so much, so it's only fair I have high hopes. Besides, the child in my belly will be your grandchild or nephew. Isn't it natural to raise him in this house to be a distinguished doctor? Yes, let's think about the boy first. He might be the important heir. Be quiet. Fabio's father interjected, initially angry with his wife. But when Michelle mentioned the unborn child, he couldn't be as stern with her. The child is innocent. But Michelle's approach is too harsh. Michelle, I'm sorry, but we need a DNA test. Why? Why would you say that? Michelle's face turned pale. Fabio also seemed shocked by Michelle's reaction. There's no need to worry. A DNA test isn't painful and it's over quickly. We'll just prove he's our son. You can't prove he's Fabio's child, can you? Sophia quietly said to Michelle, who then grabbed her bag and left the house without turning back. Michelle! Wait! What's going on? Wait! Fabio called after Michelle, but she didn't listen and left. What's going on? The child in Michelle's belly isn't your child, Fabio, Sophia revealed. Don't be ridiculous. What do you know? Are you jealous because you couldn't have a son? But to lie about it is too much. I'm sorry for keeping quiet till now. Look at this, and you'll understand. I said, handing Fabio an old file. It was a file from the fertility clinic they had visited years ago, which I had kept hidden. Fabio sat down in shock as he read it. My son. I had thought of working with him in this hospital when he became a doctor. If he had become the chief, the one I couldn't be. Fabio lamented, burying his face between his knees and crying. His reaction was understandable, as the dream of having a son had vanished in an instant. I picked up the file from the floor and showed it to Fabio's parents and Tom and his wife. It stated that Fabio had a 0% chance of fathering a child. After Mary's birth, Fabio had been hospitalized with a severe fever, which apparently rendered him infertile. Once during their fertility treatment, I had asked Fabio to submit a sample for testing. The result was in the file, which she had silently kept hidden. Fabio didn't move for hours, his face buried in his hands. Michelle had not shown her face to them since that day. She had been absent from work, so Tom had her listed as medically absent. They heard Michelle's story through a lawyer. Michelle and her husband, who often argued, had been living a life of separation and cohabitation for years. Michelle initiated the divorce when she discovered her pregnancy, and her husband, not informed of anything, was confused about why she suddenly wanted a divorce amidst their usual quarrels. However, the divorce was finalized without any objections. Long before the divorce, Michelle had been aggressively pursuing Fabio, aiming to be his next wife. She would badmouth the hospital staff and me to Fabio, convincing him that she was right and superior, and gradually began to manipulate him. The child in her belly was from her estranged husband, and now that he knew the truth, he wanted to take custody. I had once overheard Michelle and Fabio talking. They were behind the hospital near the incinerator, thinking nobody would come there. Fabio and Michelle were discussing their future dreams there. Michelle was using her pregnancy to strongly press Fabio for marriage. She even wanted the house me and Fabio lived in, planning to raise the son there once I was out of the picture. It was at this time that I came up with this idea. That's how I made all the preparations and let the two of them drop in. Michelle ended up losing everything. Her son will be taken in by her ex-husband. She can't go back to work. The position of a doctor's wife she longed for was also out of reach. She might have dreamt of living in that house, but now it all vanished like a bubble. Fabio still works as a doctor at the same hospital, but his credibility has plummeted after causing such a fuss by calling an ambulance. The rumor has spread so widely within the hospital that almost no one is unaware of it. He hardly has a few patients a day. He can no longer look down on the staff and just sits quietly in his office, looking out the window. Now, I live with Mary in a condo located 10 minutes on foot from the station, in a green area. Mary, who successfully got into medical school, is enjoying her busy yet fulfilling college life. I quit my job at the previous hospital and took a similar administrative position at a new hospital. It's a hospital recommended by my father-in-law, close to our condo, and I am very satisfied with it. Since the directors are friends, Tom occasionally visits my workplace. He always brings high-end sweets, making him very popular among the office ladies. Whether it's his plan or just a coincidence, these sweets have helped me, a woman who switched jobs after 50, become more approachable to my colleagues. I am grateful for that. One day, as usual, Tom visited my workplace. After talking briefly with the director, he popped into my office. We decided to take a walk to the hospital gate during my break. As we walked, Tom asked me in a low voice, "Why did you call the ambulance and me that day? You didn't really think my brother had collapsed, did you?" I actually knew everything. Michelle was pregnant and Fabio was overjoyed thinking it was his child. That they were planning to kick me out soon and live together in that house. You knew all that? Fabio was never good at keeping secrets. One can't get away with wrongdoing, huh? Wait, did you set up a trap by pretending to go on a trip? Instead of answering, I just smiled at him. See you later, I said and started walking my own way. Tom watched me for a while, then chuckled and turned to go back.